These are two-headed or double head mounting screws. Some people refer to all of these as bear claw, which is certainly a brand name of this type of fastener. But I'm going to show you the different manufacturers, the different options out there, why you might want to prefer one over the other, and overall, why you definitely want to make these part of your handyman kit. Now, first off, all these products are available on Amazon and the links are below in the description. Now, I have to tell you that I have received no money or endorsements, no paid endorsements, and no free product from any of these companies. I'm giving you my honest review on all these products. However, I am an Amazon influencer, and if you use the links below, I may get a small commission that helps me run this channel. It costs you nothing extra. Now, on to the different fasteners. First of all, why would you want to use a bear claw or a two-headed screw type fastener for mounting? So let's start with the reasons you would want to use this type of fastener. If you are in an old house and you're working with plaster and lath and you're using a standard picture hanger, when you go to drive this nail into the wall, you'll likely hit one of the lath boards behind the plaster. This will not enter the lath, but what it will do is it will crack the plaster and diminish or separate the bond between the plaster and the lath, which is no good. When you use this on straight sheetrock or drywall, it's actually pretty decent. You have a good surface area here for this type of hook, which gives you a little bit of shear strength. Now, when I talk about shear strength, tensile strength is the ability to hold on to something from pulling it straight out like this. Shear strength is the ability to hold on when you have a force 90 degrees against the mount. So the down force is a shear strength. Because these hooks are, the nails are angled, it actually generates some pretty good shear resistance. Although this hook is rated for 5 pounds and it's a tiny little hook right there. Now, when you put something like a two-headed screw in the wall, what you're doing is you're increasing the shear strength by having the first head that's a little bit bigger, and this surface gets compressed against the surface of the wall. So the paper of the sheetrock or the drywall or the plaster. One of the big benefits of this is it's long enough to go through the plaster and screw into the lathe, and it has a very sharp tip. So this one will screw into the lathe and pull the lathe and sandwich the plaster between this first head and the lathe and hold that plaster in place. This, large threaded area here also gives it excellent tensile strength against a variety of sheetrocks, plasters, drywall, veneer plaster as well. So this is an all-around great product to use for that. Now, when you hang photographs, a lot of times they come with D-rings on the back. So a lot of frames have a D-ring right in the center. They may have them on different sides so you can flip the picture vertical or horizontal. And you may come across two of them. They may look like this one, they may look like this one. And what a lot of people do is they just angle them like this, and they'll put some wire, some frame wire between the two. The only problem with that is when you put a frame wire on this, it's one point of hanging it, and the photograph may be susceptible to tilting from time to time, especially if you live in a city and you have neighbors upstairs, if you're in an older building and they're jumping around, or if you have kids, those frames are more likely to get out of true or to even make a little noise if the house vibrates. They also tend to hang away from the wall slightly because they are pulling on the wire, which only has one point. The better way to mount frames is to mount them with both the rings on either side. So what I do is I'll just take some painter's tape, put it across the frame, mark where those two D-rings are, transfer that to the wall, use a level to make sure they're the same level, and put two screws in. That way the D-rings, they go on to each screw and they're very secure. This second head holds on to a D-ring extremely well. Another thing these bear claw type screws are great for is for keyholes. So this is a keyhole. You find this on a lot of clocks. This is a thermometer right here. You even have some frames that have these on it. And even there's some metal ones for larger frames or weights like mirrors. But this fits right in that keyhole and holds it securely. So this thermometer won't come off the wall. It really fits nice and tightly on there, and it works quite well. So I really like it for those. Now let's talk about the different brands and how they differ. The first one here is called the HANGMAN Bear Claw. Now I picked these up in bulk, and to be honest, this is the one I use the most, and I've used it for years. The things that I like about it are the tip is extremely sharp, so it bites into sheetrock and drywall very easily. The threads are very sharp as well and deep, so it has a good grab on the substrate of drywall, sheetrock, and that sort of thing. This first collar is quite large, and the first head's really large with a good surface area, again for good shear strength support, and the second head is small enough to get in most normal size keyholes, right? So I like these a lot. There's enough space here to get even these little tiny D-rings over, right? But it's nice and secure. It doesn't slip off easily, and it works really well. There's also enough space for the larger type D-rings. So I like this really well. I buy these in bulk. Literally, I buy them in bags. Then let's move on to Ook. So Ook you can get on Amazon as well, but you can also buy these at Home Depot. Now, Ook is a brand name, and they have different manufacturers manufacture their bear claws. And I have to say, a couple of years ago on Home Depot, the Ook looked exactly like the HANGMAN. Exactly like the HANGMAN. Today, Ook looks like this. So looking at the difference between these first two, the HANGMAN is quite a bit thinner and not even as long as the Ook. The Ook has a wider shank. It has more spacing between the threads. The threads are actually wider too. They're very sharp. The tip is sharp, but it's not quite as sharp. This is more like a self-drilling tip on the HANGMAN. And the Ook, you need to tap it a little bit to get it started. And it's also a little tougher to get in because of the wider shank. Now, the wider shank could offer more strength, but the funny thing is that first head is actually a little smaller. So if you think about the surface area being directly related to shear strength ability, this actually doesn't have as much shear strength to it. However, it does look good. It has a nice finish to it. The second head where it will hang is about the same size, which makes it nice and easy to hang different D-rings on it. It is secure. It has a nice machine to it. And it's still a very good product. And like I said, you can get this one at Home Depot now. Then we have another one. This one right here comes in a multi-pack. This is called the GOHIKING or GOHIKING. GOHIKING? GOHIKING. I don't know. It's made in China. It comes in a box with 25, but it's an assortment. So you have 5 of these larger, longer ones. These are rated up to 75 pounds if you put them into a stud. And then they have these shorter ones, which are only rated to, I believe it's 30 pounds. Now they're a little bit different. This one has a rounded head. It does have a really nice brass finish on it. They call it gold. And this first head is really wide. So talk about shear strength ability. This one has a really good ability. The measurement of the threads here is 5/8 of an inch. So it's perfect for using in 1/2 inch sheetrock or drywall without any risk of hitting a pipe or a wire. The downside of this is you're not going to be able to get into a stud. And I actually really like these when you have just straight sheetrock or drywall with paint on it and you're hanging a frame that has 2 D-hooks. D-hooks hang on to this extremely well. You can see how the D-hook almost fills that space there and has a really sharp machining on the head here that really helps it be ultra secure. And this little type of D-ring too, this actually barely fits on it. This would be a struggle to get on and off, but you can do it. It's just not as easy as the other one. So 2 at a time might be tough. Now this larger one, the head's actually a little bit smaller. Oh, actually, no, it's not. It's a little bit larger. Wow, this won't fit on. So I can't fit the smaller D-ring on this. Not a big deal. The larger D-ring fits, no problem. And if you notice, the distance here between the second head and the first head is a lot larger than this other one. And the reason being, sometimes you'll have recessed mounting points or D-rings, especially in the back of larger frames or mirrors. This might be recessed past the surface of the frame, and you'll need to have that extra space away from the wall. Now, one thing I will point out on these, the threads are relatively sharp. They're not really that sharp, but they're far apart, so they'll bite into sheetrock well. They also have an increasing radius as it screws into the wall. And I believe they do that to make it a little bit stronger for the shear strength of the plaster, but also it's thinner here, so it will actually go into a wood stud. So if you look at the sheetrock part, will go from here to here, but from here to here over a stud would actually screw into the wood and give you amazing tensile and shear strength for this fastener. The same thing with this one. It has an increasing radius to the edge of the sheetrock, and I believe that this will give you a little bit better shear strength on that one. So the next one we're going to look at is the ANSOON. So this ANSOON product, again, it comes in an assortment. So this has two different types. It says it holds up to 100 pounds in wood studs and 30 pounds in drywall. Now, I'm looking at the two different ones in here, and it's interesting to me. I would guess they're made by two different manufacturers and then repackaged, because, you know, on the box, they say the major difference here is the distance between the first head and the second head. And that makes sense to me. I mean, the first head, if you have a surface mount D-ring, the first head is perfect. If it's recessed, you're going to want a little bit more space, right? These heads also work perfectly with keyways because they are nice and small. These are the smallest heads out of any of the ones that I'm showing you today. The one interesting thing to me is the difference in the threads. Now this one, the one with the larger distance between the two heads, has much sharper threads on it and well, the tips are about the same sharpness. By the way, none of these tips are self-drilling like the original Hangman. But they're still sharp enough to go in. You may want to drill a pilot hole. You may have to hit it a little bit to get it started. But these threads are much finer. These are much rougher. Almost like a sheetrock screw. These are like fine threads. These are like rough threads. So I'm not quite sure why they did that. This one, honestly, would do really well going into wood. If it's just sheetrock, I would say this one's a better choice, this type of thread. But either one will work if you're going into wood. Now, this last one, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm going to say FUZANWJ or FUZANWJ. I don't know. Is it German? Is it Korean? I have no idea. But you can see what it says. And it comes in a 30 pack. Actually, the box is really nice to hang on to these things. It holds together really nice. Same with the previous one. These boxes are really durable. They clip together well. Now this guy right here, really interesting. If I look at this, and again, most of these are made in China, you know, big surprise. And so when I look at this and I look at the other ones, I look at the Hangman and they look awfully similar. So I look at the distance between the two heads, right? The Hangman has a little bit thinner shaft in between the heads. And then if we look at the threads, they're really quite close. I would say they're not really identical, but they are extremely close. Now the Hangman does have that self-tapping tip. So if you know what I mean, there's like a little slit there and it makes it razor sharp as you push that tip in there. This one right here does not have that. Actually, I take it back. It does. It's just not quite as sharp for some reason. But this also has a self-tapping, self-drilling tip on it. I mean, you can see that there. But pretty interesting. So for me, I look at these two and I mean, it's hard to tell which is which. The colors are even similar. They're both a zinc color and the size of the heads are basically the same. So I would say these are both a good choice. And, you know, Honestly, if you are into mounting, if you do frames at all, frames, mirrors, clocks, mount anything to walls, you should give these a try. I highly recommend these over standard nails or sheetrock screws. You know, the added benefit of having that shear strength on a fastener like this is paramount. It's really important. So anyway, give these things a try. You won't be disappointed. If you have any comments or have a favorite one of these, please let me know. And if you have other fasteners that you want me to review, write it down in the comments. Please give a like and subscribe if you like this content and want to see more.